What do you call a single gutter punk? Homeless! So, I'm going to tell you guys a really funny story, but before I tell you the story, I want to give two disclaimers. One, do not try this in your houseless residence. You will get arrested. Number two, I do not condone or glorify any of the events that transpired on the evening which I am about to recount. I'm just telling you a story. I found myself in a flop. A flop is defined as a place where one or more kids are actually paying rent. But generally there are a whole lot of other kids that are staying there on semi-permanent or more permanent basis. So I was at this flop. And it was a big party that night, and there was a whole lot of kids. And it was very loud. And two of the kids that were at this party got into a lover's quarrel. In this lover's quarrel, one of the people involved had kicked through a glass-plated door. And all of us were making a whole lot of noise. So the cops had gotten called. The person who was actually the resident there was lucky enough to receive a visit from the neighbors who had called the cops to let him know that the cops had been called. And he asked us all to leave before they got there. So, myself and three other of the people who were at this residence this particular evening left in a car owned by a kid named Paul. It was probably a 70s or 80s version of a luxury car at the time, but it was pretty battered and in bad condition. So it was myself, the owner of the car, Paul, and two other males, Daniel and his brother Sean. We heard the sirens coming, so we headed towards the town rather rapidly. The first place that we came upon was a Walmart. Street kids do not like Walmart. Though we utilize Walmart for various purposes, we do not like Walmart. For whatever reason, we pulled over there. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and Walmart was open. So we went inside. Well, Sean immediately jumped into a shopping cart. And so I started pushing him around very rapidly through the store. At the same time, Daniel began to just hold both arms out and run down the aisles, knocking all the merchandise off the shelves. And Paul just followed around behind the rest of us, screaming obscenities to the top of his lungs. Needless to say, the Walmart security were quickly upon our group. So we ran out the front door. Paul, having to drive the car, said, "You guys go ahead and run along, and I will come and find you." So the three of us headed across the street into the parking lot of a Dairy Queen. And we hid behind that facility. We waited for quite a while and had started to think that Paul had gotten arrested, and were just about to head off walking when he pulled up in the beat-up car. So we got in the car, and having no particular direction at this point, it was probably about 2:30 in the morning, we headed towards the downtown area, which was probably roughly 2 or 3 minutes from where we were. So we get downtown. Needless to say, we're all pretty intoxicated. And we spot a car parked outside of a particular coffee house who had recently all but banned street kids from buying coffee there or even being in the general vicinity. And a lot of people weren't happy about that. And Paul saw his car, and he goes, "Oh, hey, guys, someone told me they'd give me like $250 if I just fuck this guy's car up." Okay, let's fuck this guy's car up. So we ram our vehicle as hard as possible into said car. And this was a big adrenaline rush, and we all thought it was really funny. And so we circled around the block, came back, and repeated this action, reversing and going back into said car again several times. And then we just drove away going, "Yay! That was really fun." We get about 2 miles down the road, and the blue lights are upon us, pulling us over. So Sean and I were sitting in the back seat, and we pretended to be sleeping. And the officer pulled us over and says, "There have been 2 complaints against you guys, saying that you are wrecking into cars and went to the local Walmart and caused a lot of destruction to their property." And Sean and I, pretending to be asleep, sat up. And I was like, "Well, I think I would know if we were wrecking into cars." I say this as it is very obvious we have done so now that there is extensive damage to the vehicle we are riding in. Nonetheless, I say, "I would have known that and woken up, and I've been asleep this whole time." And Daniel says, "Yeah, we were just at a party on the east side of town, and now we're just trying to get where we live on the west side of town." And Paul's kind of driving, and he's jumbling up all his words, and the officer says, "You are obviously intoxicated. Please get out of the vehicle." So Paul gets out of the vehicle. He is intoxicated, and he is arrested, and the car is impounded. And for whatever reason, the cops did not feel that it was necessary to confiscate the case of beer that we were carrying with us, though 2 out of the 3 of the remaining of us were underage, nor did they arrest us. So we continued on up the road. Well, what are we going to do next? So Daniel says, "Let's go behind this building over here and drink the rest of this beer." It sounds very reasonable. Yes, let's do this. So we went behind these set of buildings and started drinking beer. And it was a pretty strange area. There was a lot of graffiti, and it was the backside of many businesses circling around. And there was a basketball hoop, mysteriously, and a gentleman he's a very tall gentleman, was shooting basketball. And he spots us, and he said to us, "Hey, punk rockers, what are you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh man, we're just trying to sit here and drink this beer, you know." So he goes, "Well, can I have one?" "Sure, you can drink beer with us." So this very large African-American gentleman comes over and sits down next to us and starts drinking beer. And the conversation was whatever it was. And suddenly, the African-American man, not that the race matters, he just happened to be, looks over at me, and he has kind of a crazy look in his eyes, and he goes, "You know, sometimes I just feel really violent." And I responded with, "Well, sometimes I feel really violent too." And we all just sat there awkwardly. Then he says again, "Like right now. Like right now I feel really violent." There was a slight pause, and the 3 of us all looked at each other, unsure what to do. And then Daniel yelled, "Run!" So we ran, carrying the beer, and we also had a tattered Ninja Turtles towel with us. Now where shall we go? Well, let's go sleep at the Pink House, which was a pretty popular squatting area at the time. And this was Daniel's suggestion. I agreed this was a good idea. It was now probably about 3:30, and we needed to find a place to sleep. And Sean says, "Oh no, we can't go sleep there because there's this crazy guy who lives there, and he's just totally schizo, and he'll cut us up and all this." And we were like, "Oh, well, Daniel and I say that's an urban myth, and that's not really true." And Sean says, oh no, I went in there the other day ago and I saw he had written on the wall, it's just all kind of manner of crazy things, and, you know, I don't think we should go there. But Daniel and I outweighed Sean and decided we would, in fact, go and sleep at the Pink House. That was the name of it. The house was, in fact, pink. So, Sean suggested that we needed a mattress. Okay, where will we get a mattress? Then Sean informs us that back at the area where the basketball hoop was, he had seen some mattresses sitting up against one of the buildings. I don't know why we thought it was a good idea to return to the area where the crazy violent guy was in the first place, but we did. And we did see a mattress there. So now we are 3 very conspicuous looking characters with mohawks and patches and spikes all over us, and we're moving the mattress, which was a twin size, from the area where it had been located to the Pink House, which was about 3 blocks, and also carrying a case of beer. Just walking down the middle of the road, carrying the mattress, the beer, the 3 of us headed to the Pink House. So we get to the Pink House, and we think, okay, we're going to go to sleep here. And so Sean, who was prone to being a little bit paranoid sometimes, said, well, what if the cops come? What if the cops come, said Daniel and I. They'll just tell us to leave. And he was like, no, we need to put this mattress in front of the door, the entrance, so that if the cops come, they can't get in or something. Daniel and I didn't think this was a particularly good idea, but we agreed to it. So we all laid down on the mattress in front of the door at the squat. And it hadn't been long that we were laying there till we did hear some rustling coming, and this was a 2-story building, and known for being quite infested with rats, even before it was condemned. So Sean goes, did you guys hear that? Yeah, I said, that's the rats that live here. Just go to sleep. Then we heard some footsteps coming from upstairs, and they stopped about mid-stairwell, and we're all frozen in fear. And a voice comes through the complete pitch dark and says, get out of my house! This totally freaked us out. So we jumped up to try to leave, but the mattress was in front of the door. So as we're trying to pull the door open, the mattress is there, but we're scrambling over top of each other. And it's, if you think about it and imagine it, it's really kind of a funny scene. But we finally get the mattress out of the way, and we get out the door, and we're out on the sidewalk in front of the squat. And there was a balcony, and we see a figure standing up on the balcony, and it's yelling at us. So we chuck one of the beers that's still full that we're carrying in the case. We pick one out and throw it at this figure. And it yells at us some more, some obscenities. We yell at it and decide to go ahead and leave. So we go on down the road to go where? Well, at this point, we're getting really tired. It's probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. Daniel says, well, I know a roof that we can sleep on. It's at the top of this parking deck. And I knew what roof he was speaking of. So we went to the parking deck, and we took the stairwell, because, of course, the elevator wasn't working, up to the very top floor, and then if you could jump over a little concrete wall that was part of the roof of the parking deck, there was another roof on the other side that was the top of a shop. So we jumped over and laid down there. And at this point, we're all extremely exhausted. It's been a crazy night, etc. And so we lay down on the concrete on the roof to go to sleep. And we don't have a pillow, of course. And so the 3 of us push ourselves all together to use the case of beer that we're still carrying, mostly full, as a pillow. And then we take the Ninja Turtles towel and turn it horizontally and spread it over the 3 of us. And we are lying there probably about 15 minutes before it starts to rain. It's sprinkling at first, so we all kind of tried to ignore it, and then it began to become a torrential downpour. So we had to leave the roof, and we left the roof and went down the stairwells to another place that was about 4 blocks away, where a shop had a window that protruded, and I could fit underneath it because I'm very short. The other 2 of them were still standing in the rain, and so the end result of this night is I spent about 2 hours from 5 to 7 waiting for the buses to run so we could get on the bus and dry out, sitting underneath a window sill with my 2 friends complaining beside me that they were soaking wet. So these are some of the kind of stories that some of you may be able to relate to. You may or may not think it's funny, but I personally still kind of think it's funny. Next time!